Rudy. Oh, Rudy.
And it's Rudy.
All right, everybody. Welcome to a podcast. We're offended.
Ow.
You're offended. I hope you enjoyed that little serenade on the way in today on our casual Friday.
No,
I'm
that's
Kim.
Wednesday.
What?
You did the music for Wednesday.
No, I didn't. Wednesday is brown. Just a
Yeah.
wow, wow. It's a hump
Oh,
day.
okay.
God, get your day straight, man. You'll be
Get
one.
with it.
I mean,
I don't know.
all right.
I don't know what's going on here.
Everybody, before we get into anything, you can check us out on our socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can listen to us on Rumble, YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, and a bunch of other places that'll all be listed in the description box below. But most importantly, don't forget to give us a little thumbs up, subscribe, leave comments. We like comments. We're bored, okay? We want to read shit. And share. It's the year. 'Tis the season. Share. Give us a little present to someone, you know? All right. So we have a special guest with us today. Welcome back, Amy.
Hey.
You shut up.
Howdy-ho.
That's every time that I'm like introduced or interact, he's yelling at the dog.
Right?
No.
He's either yelling at her from my end because he can hear her through the microphone, or right now she's with him. So now he's just yelling at her there.
Yeah.
I know she's such a noisy little bitch.
So, Amy, who are you? What do you do? Why do we know you?
Okay. Holy smokes.
What do you do? Who do you do? Where do you know? Where do you go?
Okay, so yeah, my name's Amy. I'm a human. I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Easy.
Human? Ah, shit.
I
We haven't
I
had one
do
of these
try
on yet.
to I do try to take it easy, as the Eagles say. Um,
Fly like an eagle.
don't let the sound of your own wheels drive you crazy.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Anyway, yeah. So I guess I'm a drafter by trade. I'm a person of great political and social interest and in general, and I have other hobbies and things that I like miniatures and Legos and
Oh,
cats and
You're a dork.
I'm a
meow.
dork. I love yeah,
Maybe that's why we
I'm
get
a total
along so
dork.
well. We're all just a bunch of dorks around here.
Speak for
Exactly. Yeah,
yourself.
no. So I love miniatures and Legos and cats and old things, antiques and old buildings, and I collect clocks, particularly mid-century modern travel alarms with closing covers that
Cool.
are
Oh
of
God.
Cool.
metal construction. um,
Speaking of old
uh,
buildings, there was that one post that you had posted. I don't even remember what it was, but it was some super old Italian house, and that fireplace. Oh my God, I was
It
obsessed
was
with it.
French. It was
Was
French,
it
Kim.
French?
It
I
was by the
Just that
designer
remember.
like,
Louis Vuitton.
oh
Yeah, it
yeah.
was his chateau. It was all that gorgeous, like not quite aqua, sort of periwinkle
Hmm.
French,
Yeah, it was like that
hand dyed
teal
blue glass
colored.
tile.
Ah,
Oh, it's
that
so
fireplace
sexy.
was amazing.
Oh my goodness. I I love that kitchen so much. Like I would just like wear a beautiful scarf around my neck and like a half apron and high heels
Oh my.
and
Oui,
just
oui,
cook in that
monsieur.
kitchen. Yeah, exactly. And then also maybe, yeah, have some sex in that kitchen. Just feels
Oh,
Lots of it.
it feels
oh.
up. So anyway, I feel like that's all become part of my introduction of myself here. Um and
Oh,
how did we connect? We connected because we know Sandy.
Yep.
yep.
Yeah. And so because I know Sandy from when she was like, well, Sandy's 3 or 4 years older than I am. So from when she was like 15 or 16 and I was like 12 or maybe 13.
Yeah, I think she
Um,
moved here when she was 16 from Germany.
yeah, it
Yeah, that's when I
was
knew
like
her
right
from
when
too.
she moved here. Yeah.
Yep.
And she could buy smokes at Max
Yeah.
most of the time. So she saw me fishing for smokes one day and was like, "Hey, sometimes I can buy smokes in here." Um, and yeah, then we went and like smoked some cigarettes together and got to be friends. So
Very cool.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
Oh
So
yeah.
so let's so I have this one post pulled up.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go look now that I'm settled in. Oh, my mouse is upside down. That was very confusing.
Well, at least it's the end of the week.
So this article from the Montreal Gazette. And so and this is why everyone I always talk you shut up. Why I always talk about, like, look at the wording that's being used and then, think about what's actually being said. So the title, if you only read the title of this, Anti-Vax Alberta Man. So what would that sound like? Oh, it's the the actual crazy anti-vaxxers that you get autism and all this,
Mhm.
the stuff that's been widely discredited for decades.
Well, it
We're not
depends
talking about that.
what reality or yeah, that you're actually
Well,
speaking in. If we're talking about actual reality, then yeah, if we're talking about this crazy reality we're living in lately, I would think a person who didn't want the COVID shot.
Yeah.
when
But it's
uh,
one and the same, in people's
yeah,
minds now.
Mhm.
well, Eric Clapton, he got the vaccinations and he was just telling people, "Hey, this is what I experienced." This is Eric Clapton, possibly one of the greatest guitarists of all time, and he's saying, "My hands don't work now."
Yep.
Like, and people were calling him anti-vax. He's like, "Hey, fuckface, I got it. I
Yeah.
got it, and this is what I'm experiencing." So,
Yeah, and he went back for a second after he was already having some side effects.
yeah,
He
so
still went, I think, at his doctor's urging. Um, and
and there's
and
been
like his video got taken down from YouTube too, didn't it? At one point, there was an interview with him speaking
yeah,
about that.
What the
he's just
hell?
saying, "Hey, I need my hands to work. Like, I'm Eric fucking Clapton."
Ah,
But
Right? No clapping
so
for Clapton. I mean, come on,
oh
man.
yeah, good
Thank
one.
you.
Oh
Thank you.
god, my eyes. Oh.
I know.
Okay, so how, as the article goes, so anti-vax Alberta man loses battle with ex-wife over whether to get their children inoculated. Okay, so if we scroll down a little bit,
Inoculated?
where is it?
I just want to say
Um,
too, inoculated means like rendered immune,
yeah,
That's not
like
which
possible.
which is not what happens with these mRNA shots. It
well,
doesn't like,
It's impossible because it's a freaking influenza virus.
yeah.
well, we can get into that. Oh god, I got some.
So
I
I just don't like the use of that word because it's not, they will not be inoculated against the illness.
No,
no
never.
no,
Right. Right.
but so
Like it.
okay. So the
Okay.
article goes, so it says a Lethbridge dad who fed his children vaccine misinformation has lost his battle to prevent them from getting shots. In a written ruling posted Wednesday, Jonah Quebec said it. Well, you shut up. Sided with the children's mother and said she could go ahead and get them inoculated. Um, where is it here? Okay, so they're painting him as anti-vax. Noted that until the pandemic, so this is what the judge had said. Kubik noted that until the pandemic, both had ensured their children received all childhood immunizations and annual flu vaccinations.
Okay, great.
That this is what the judge said. Oh, well, they got vaccines, they got their immunization shots, they got their flu shots. Unfortunately, their parents disagree as to whether they should be vaccinated against COVID-19. Their father opposes their vaccination as he is concerned. Look at this. He is concerned that the risk associated with a vaccine outweighs the risk to the children should they contract COVID-19.
There's another even more terrifying statement here.
You want to?
Quote, these materials illustrate the father's engagement with vaccine misinformation. The father's affidavit refers to the vaccine as experimental, she said.
Yeah, this is all
What
from the judge.
that it but like this is a fact. It just
It
is.
is. Yeah,
We don't get to deny that. Whether we take it or not, it's experimental. It's only
and
existed for like a year. It's an experiment. We have to
it.
accept that, even if everybody chooses to engage, like voluntarily or under duress.
Yeah, well, and that's what I find so incredible. The fact that the headline, and like I said, if you just read the headline, oh, it's some anti-vax dad that was, hurting his kids, saying they give him autism and all this crazy. No, he's saying I've looked at the information. There. I was just looking at an interview with Dr. Peter McCullough, and you know, this isn't
There's a
some like
hero, by the way.
yeah, and so like this isn't some nobody doctor. He's not
Mm-mm.
like, oh, I'm in like the backwoods of shitty Saskatoon. Fuck you, Saskatoon. And saying, well, you're all gonna get it and you're all gonna die, or oh, this stuff is all just like some made up stuff. This is a well decorated, a well educated doctor, and he's saying like, hey, what's happening here isn't normal. That's it. That's really all
Mhm,
he's saying. Like,
mhm.
you know, the amount of adverse effects, like, hey, the even he said like the like myocarditis is extremely rare naturally, but they're showing that there is a heightened risk, and potentially this is why you're seeing soccer players drop dead. Well, not dead, but they
No, they
collapse.
have,
Yeah, some,
and some
yeah,
have died, and
yeah,
some have died, like, more
yeah.
than usual.
Yeah. Then these are supposed to be super physically fit people that end up having is heart damage. So,
And
I
as an aside, some people have said to me, "Oh, well, it's common in athletes to have unknown heart disorders," and I call bullshit on that.
uh,
I don't buy that for a minute. No, it's not. They go for physicals. They get checked over more.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
no, I
they
don't
go
buy
for
that.
testing. And there's so much with that. So it was more the fact, and if I know we talked a little bit ago about like the pastor Artur Pawlowski
Yeah.
and how the
Mm.
court was saying you need to say this or else. Like,
Oh,
what?
I know. Oh, that made me so mad. They were literally
Oh,
Like,
compelling what he could
1984.
speak or say.
Oh,
did you?
1984.
Oh, well,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, and so, seeing the inoculation,
I s
and a lot of this stuff, and I don't think like I made the unfortunate mistake, or maybe fortunate, because like there was I seen something about Joe Biden, or even with Justin Trudeau. Well, I guess the thing that was surprising with Joe Biden was people were saying, "You're representing us so well. You're my president. We're so proud of you." And it was like almost like shell shock. I'm like, what? His approval ratings in the 20s. Like everyone outside of like corporate established like fucking hates this guy. And the same thing with Trudeau is the division and the divisiveness has only escalated with kneeling to Antifa, with not being actually, respecting the Canadian Charter of Human Rights. Our charter, or charter rights. If anyone doesn't know, we have a charter that is supposed to guarantee things, unless the government says,
Uh-uh.
nah, 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 we can violate that. Fuck off.
Yeah, it's
Oh, and
so
if you have a problem, we'll deal with it. And you can complain in 5 years. Okay, when the point is moot.
yeah, it's the Charter of Rights
But
when we allow it to be.
yeah, it's a
right.
charter of privileges.
But this is
But
Yeah.
following this cycle of abuse, right? So,
yeah,
like, at the root of abuse is denial. That's everything is predicated on
mhm,
denial of information, of the validity of outside information, if we have to acknowledge that it does exist at all. Like, each step is about like maintaining this circle of control, like
Mhm.
that and like the Stand on Guard group, are you familiar?
Yeah,
It's
the
like the
police.
RCMP officers and stuff. So I
Yeah.
mean, the RCMP one in particular, they wrote about how, like, as police officers, they need to understand the cycle of violence and how this abuse cycle plays out
Yeah.
and what
They
factors.
how they're literally trained to notice like a cycle of abuse of, like the typical thing of a guy beating a woman. She's like, no, he's a good guy, he's good, please, I like, it was my fault, I shouldn't have done that. Or how they hide it, like I fell down the stairs and hit my face on everything on the way down.
Right, right.
Like,
Generally how
So,
it happens.
like, it's you have the honeymoon periods, right? Where
yeah,
things are good and where we try to please, like where the one being abused is trying to keep everything going well,
yeah,
right? So we're just like, if everybody just would keep complying, then we won't get in any more trouble, right?
yeah.
And then we move into this tension starts building, right? Because they don't ever intend to let it be okay. Like
No,
that's
the,
what
yeah,
the cycle is about. They intend to keep like perpetuating this, right? This is what they're thriving on, is the drama of this abuse or control or whatever. So it's going to mount no matter what you do. And then, you're still trying to make everything better, but you're being nitpicked and told that it's still not enough. Like, when is it going to be enough for the healthcare? How many years do we have to go? We can put billions into passport systems and into building voluntary quarantine facilities and
hey,
into
watch that word.
building. Oh, sorry.
Concentration
And
Voluntary
camps.
in quotations.
right, exactly. Like the ones in Australia have 2 layers of electric fencing with barbed wire coils
Yeah,
on the top. And
Definitely
when
voluntary.
people who've tested negative for days leave without authorization, they don't hesitate to refer to them as escaped in
yeah,
national media and then mount a like check stop campaign on the
yeah.
highway to search and seize innocent citizens
Wait,
whilst
innocent?
traversing
What
their
are you what
country.
are you talking about? They're not innocent. They escaped from a concentration camp and they were
No, just
completely
the people
fine.
driving their cars though on the highway are pulled
Yeah,
over
yeah,
and
it's
searched, like, for these people who quote unquote escaped from this concentration camp. Like, I
voluntary.
can't
Yeah.
voluntary isolation facility
That they were negative from, that they didn't even have
that they've
any
tested
disease on them. Yeah.
negative repeatedly and are fully vaccinated and stuff, right? Like, it's just, I can't even with that. But and so then it turns into these acute situations, right? So that the abuser is now like attacking and humiliating it.
Yeah.
They're like being outright like violent towards you or like doing things in a vehement way. And then you're just trying to apply. Maybe you fight back a bit, but you end up regretting it. And, you
You know
Yeah.
what's
know,
crazy? I don't think that they put as much cops and law enforcement and stuff like that into the whole Gabby Petito Brian laundry case, and that they allegedly, were watching him. They didn't even have as many people on a guy who was suspected of murder as they do with people who tested negative for COVID. Strange.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't really try to draw like parallels to things that are absolutely unrelated, because it's, I don't know.
I'm just saying they're
I think,
spending a lot of money on literally hunting down somebody who's negative for COVID, not endangering anybody. Like,
well, but
it's a waste of money.
I think the bigger problem is like, I will always, I'm one of those people that I will hold someone to their word. If you are saying this, I am expecting you to follow through on it.
absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm anyone, like, anyone is worth, like, there to
Your
me,
word
your
is your
name,
bond. Yeah.
yeah, your name means everything. If I cannot trust who you are, then I don't do business with you. It's as simple as that. So when Trudeau is saying, "Well, Canada will never be a country of mandates," this was told. Oh, if you get the vaccine, well, we could replay the whole thing. 2
Yeah.
weeks to slow the
Yep.
spread. And the point was to not overwhelm the hospitals. That was the
Yep.
point. Okay, everyone was okay with that. We didn't know what we were dealing with. Okay, wearing masks helps. Okay, whatever. Like, it kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And like an abusive relationship, it starts to go, you know, well, why aren't you just listening to me? If you just would have done this, everything would have been fine. This is your fault. But
Mhm.
but I and then like, but I didn't do anything. I didn't I didn't really do this. Oh well, now, tough shit. This is what's happening now. This is now what you have to deal with. You have to deal with the ramifications of someone else. Oh no, don't be mad at me. Trust me, I'm the one protecting you because you're too dumb. I'm protecting you from the other people. If you get the vaccine, you're fine. Everything's hunky dory. You can go back to normal. And, but it didn't. It got worse. So when the first lockdowns happened, now you could see just how easy it was. That's been one of the things that have been most terrifying to me. How easy it was. And Amy, if you're trying to talk, you're muted. So I let you know.
Thank you. I was click clacking on my keyboard over here, and I muted myself very thoughtfully. And this time I was aware of my mutedness,
Oh, okay.
but I
Okay.
do appreciate the reminder. 'Cause you
No,
guys
but it
did
was
hear me take like 3 really big bong rips like when we started up here earlier. So
and so it
No.
was, then it starts to divide more and more. And now, like, that's been the most terrifying thing. People were so, you know what, just do whatever has to happen. I don't care. I'm doing my part at whatever cost. I'm doing my part at whatever cost. And I think that sounds like very similar rhetoric to a certain time in 1930s world.
Mhm.
Some people will die. Like, I'm okay that some people are going to die because they
Yeah.
don't want to get it or they can't. Like, what? I'm I'm a little bothered by that and just how fast people were saying, well, fuck your rights. Oh, your rights mean nothing. Well, now look what you see in Quebec. Bill C-21. Well,
Mhm.
why are they discriminating against religious symbols? What about my rights? My rights. Uh, For me personally, I don't think any government employee should be portraying any government symbol, period. I don't care what it is. You are supposed to be performing a government function that is supposed to be separation of church and state. They are not supposed to prop up or discredit any religion. That's not government's job. That would be authoritarian.
Yeah,
But
I kind of feel like I don't really care if you wanna wear a headscarf or, like, a turban or something, but I don't know, like, if you need to wear a cross or that kind of thing, like, tuck it under your shirt,
yeah, like
or
like is it just but it
I
seems
guess
so
I
funny.
also don't give a shit if somebody is wearing a cross or something, like, it doesn't it's not like I'm not a vampire yet, like, I aspire to that someday,
See,
um,
but that's sorry, that's the
you
thing
know?
too, like, if someone's wearing a Star of David or they're wearing a cross or they're wearing a pentagram, I don't really care. If that's what they wanna wear, like, I wouldn't look at it and be like, "Oh god, they're Christian," or, "Oh, they're
Doesn't
Muslim,"
hurt me if
"Oh,
someone
they're
says
Jewish."
Merry
Who
Oh,
cares?
Christmas or Happy
No,
yeah.
Hanukkah or right? Like,
exactly.
it's all good, man. Yeah, like, season's greetings,
I know, but see,
Yuletide joy.
that drives me crazy, like, literally when places like, y "Oh, no, 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 you can't say Merry Christmas, you have to say, like, Happy Holidays or Seasons Greetings." And my thing to that is, no, fuck you. I celebrate Christmas. I will say Merry Christmas. Now, if someone were to come up to me and be like, Happy Hanukkah, I wouldn't be like, no, Merry Christmas. I would be like, oh, Happy Hanukkah. Like I would
Yeah.
just say it back or Happy
You're like, "Thank you so
whatever.
much."
Yeah.
Yeah. Same to you,
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Or
it's
just, like, whatever other interaction you have with another human being kind to you.
What? What is
yeah,
Like,
that?
yeah. And that's like it's always funny. Like people start complaining about, well, what about my rights? But once something else like, hey, that we've been saying that too. What about our rights? But now you want us to capitulate and say, well, they're trying to ban Muslims from wearing X, Y, and Z. Yeah, but they're doing that for everyone. So, but we were also trying to say, hey, what about my individual autonomy? Like, do I get a say in this? Oh no, I just have to shut up and take it because the government decrees. I'm what about my problem with it? So there was one thing that Dr. McCullough brought up. And
Oh,
so this
yeah, that's what we were talking about.
yeah.
Well, we didn't
So
even finish. I don't even know what happened in this article. What happened to this dude and his ex-wife?
Oh, you know what
the court
happened. They
the
did
court
they
said
he lost the battle.
yeah, and so he has to get it done. Only thing that I could see is potentially that he's goes for an appeal, but well, I guess to conclude, so the father's actions in this regard are contrary to the emotional and psychological safety, security, and well-being of the children. So this is literally okay. So you know what? Actually, Kim, thank you for letting me continue with it. Yeah. So the government is now saying you are unable to give your child the information to give them the ability to make an informed choice, or at least say, hey, this is why I don't think it's okay.
Yeah, they've literally censored him.
Yeah. So one thing, and I brought this up before. So with on Penn and Teller's bullshit, they had a thing about if there's a rabbit, and if everyone votes on the sex of the rabbit, whether it's male or female, let's say they vote and they say, oh well, the rabbit's female, it doesn't suddenly make it female. Like just because you vote on it, or I guess a better way to put it was from Thomas Swalwell was right doesn't become wrong, right. Wrong doesn't become right, and evil doesn't become good just because the majority believe it.
Absolutely.
That's a good one.
It's as simple as that. Just because the majority, okay, well, for the longest time the majority thought the earth was flat. People were literally killed by the church for thinking otherwise.
Okay.
People were killed for speaking out against the church.
You know what's
Uh,
funny?
so
It
what? Right?
honestly, with everything that's been going on lately, it's like nothing has changed. Except now we're
No.
not fighting over whether the earth is flat or a fucking circle. Now it's
Hmm.
vaccines and mandates and COVID and like
So
other
you
bullshit.
just there's like Russell Brand has this chat where he talks about how the US um is drives like through their actions or inactions or otherwise drives a lot of what happens and ripples throughout the rest of the world and affects other countries kind
Yep.
of in
Yep.
its wake. And that their economy, especially after changing from gold reserves,
In the
their
1960s.
economy,
Yeah.
yeah, their
Yeah.
economy is driven by war.
Yeah.
In the 1960s, when things shifted and then moved into like Vietnam and stuff, that all like
Well, it was
they started producing for war, and
yeah.
they have this deep functioning that requires this kind of machine of some kind of fight to be happening. And I think there's this shift that people really are not cool with, like sending young men out to die in trenches shooting at each other.
Yeah.
um
Well,
and
and
now
it,
we have to do something else to generate controversy and push and segregation and uptake and acceptance, or whatever.
well, and I think so for anyone that doesn't really know, like this, I think a lot of this started like yeah, there was getting off the gold standard, and a lot of countries, knew what the fuck was going on. The reason they got off the gold standard is because the U.S. was borrowing so much money. So for anyone that doesn't know, when the U.S. dollar it was backed by gold. So if you got $1 American, it was equivalent to one piece of gold of equivalent value. So the US started loaning out more and more US dollars to the point where countries are going, I think you're writing checks that your ass can't cash. So we would like our gold. And the US just goes, no. How about no? And then, yeah, they ended up pulling off the gold standard with, fuck, was that Nixon? Reagan? I don't know. One of those old kooky buggers. And
Now you got me.
what? All
I
hot
gotta
and
look it
bothered.
up.
Oh, but so
Oh,
it was
okay,
so
sorry.
after, but it was so after that, they said, oh well, we're just not going to give you the gold for it. And then I think a lot of countries started to catch on that, hey, their money's no good. But
FDR?
yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then with the
Yeah,
Federal
it was
Reserve and central
Roosevelt.
banking.
It was Rosie.
Yeah. So this kind of sucks because Theodore Roosevelt was a pretty fucking badass guy. Or I guess it was under his administration that
Well,
they
so
allowed
it
this to
does
happen. But
say though that they held the $35 per ounce price until 1971 when Richard Nixon announced that they would no longer convert dollars to gold at a fixed value.
So it was kind of that, yeah. But so where the fuck was I going? Oh, right. And so then, after 9/11 happened, they had
Johnson?
the
Holy, this is. I'll have to send you some links. Sorry, I'm
oh,
interrupting it
okay.
a lot.
No, it's okay. But so back with Bush, the second W,
Yeah.
they after 9/11 they signed the Patriot Act. And it gave the government sweeping control in order to spy on citizens. And that is a ripple effect that every other country has kind of followed. That same
Hmm.
kind of idea that they can mass surveillance and they're allowed to watch. And so, if the terrorism threat isn't abroad, it's now being fought within. In Canada, you're seeing the same stuff happen. Go snitch on your neighbor if they have too many people around. Do you have any tips of any COVID breakers? We'll give money for that. Like Stasi? Like, hello,
Oh,
I'm just I'm just looking. I'm like, and I've said before, I am a student of history. I look at history, what happened, and the types of division and all that kind of crap. So now, that war machine, look at what's happening in Ukraine. If
yeah.
you if you look at what happened in the Ukraine, well, Russia wants to bring back the USSR. They want to reunify. That's the whole thing. And the US is telling the Ukraine, like, just give it up. You guys used to fight for democracy, for capitalism that no longer, well, it's not capitalism,
Hold
but
hold on.
It's
Hold on.
corporatism, what we live in now.
The
yeah, it's a
US is telling the Ukraine just to give it up.
give up their eastern side to Russia.
I'm just does the United States own the Ukraine? Are they
No,
in
No, but
charge
they're
of the
not going to
Ukraine?
back them up. The
yeah.
Ukraine's poor, and the US isn't going to back them up against Russia. They're just being like, well, just give them a little bit. Like,
Yeah, and then, kind of you keep creeping. It's just like everything. You make the big ask and then you withdraw. Well, we want all of Ukraine. Give us Ukraine. Well, how about we give you the eastern side of it? Okay. Like they annexed Crimea.
See you in
who,
5 years. We'll get some more.
what,
Like,
like, did you ever have a time where you gave like, or watch somebody give like an asshole their lunch money one
yeah,
day and then not get harassed for their lunch money again?
yeah,
Yeah.
Like the
exactly.
whole point is if you roll over, people learn that you fucking roll over.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I don't get why people don't realize like there's no situation where someone's trying to push you to do something and you giving in means that they back off.
Well, and there was one thing, like I applauded the U.S. for it, and you know what? And I understand trying to be on compassionate grounds in Canada, but they say, hey, if you take one of our citizens, we're not going to pay. we're not giving you the ransom. Like, they do not, as they said, we do not negotiate with terrorists because they'll just end up commando raiding and fucking killing everything. So people knew, like, hey, you don't take US citizens because you're not going to get the money. But in Canada, well, we give them some. Okay, well, then now you start incentivizing. You allow it. You allow it to happen. You allow the bully to win. But
Yep.
I wanted to bring up this. So this is one thing that Peter McCullough brought up, and this so this and this is what I've been talking about. Like, it's like a psychosis. People have just been crazy, and they've kind of accepted the abuser abused kind of Stockholm syndrome kind of thing. So he was saying that it's a mass formation psychosis. And he describes that as groupthink that develops that's so strong that it leads to something horrific. And he said that there's 4 stages of it. So one is prolonged isolation. Well, what have we been dealing with? Lockdowns. We've been dealing with
Yep.
lockdowns. No, not communicating, not talking to people. Number 2 is withdrawal of things. So taking things they used to enjoy. Well, I remember, and as soon as he said that, all I thought was Brian Pallister saying, "Don't you want to go out for dinner again? Don't you want to go see your friends?" Like that. I was like, "Oh," like that.
Yep.
Right.
That sparked right in my
And
head.
like,
And like,
doesn't this
yeah,
smack of like 80s parenting?
right,
But
yeah,
no, like legit, doesn't this smack of like the kind of bullshit that like doesn't work, especially on the kind of kids that I think all 3 of us probably were,
yeah. It's the do this or else. But so here,
right? And I'm like,
I'll
let's fucking go. Yeah, what's our else? Let's see.
yeah.
Like,
And so number 3 is constant, incessant, free floating anxiety. And so
mm,
what I had here was, so think of like CNN saying the death ticker and seeing the
Mhm.
uptick is gangbusters for ratings. Or
yeah,
you keep getting told about mutant strain, alpha, beta. Oh, you could just go down the list of all the variants. It's the,
all
oh
trauma.
my God, oh my God.
Yep.
Yeah, it's that anxiety.
Well, it
And
doesn't
so
end
then,
everywhere you turn. It's in front of your face.
yeah.
Yep.
And so the number 4 is the capper, a single solution presented by an entity in authority.
Oh, you mean like a
Hmm.
So,
vaccine
so
that
the
will
government says, "Hey, just get your vaccine shot and everything goes back to normal.
lies.
Just do this and things go back to normal." Okay, well, I think I think everyone has tried to comply and tried to, be like be like water, be like
Yep.
a willow tree. Just
Yeah.
bend and flow and things will go, it'll be easier. Well,
Absolutely. Even myself, like as much as I don't agree, for the very like definitely for the first full year, I was like, okay, other people feel nervous. These are things you can do to help them feel more comfortable and more safe that don't hurt you,
yeah, and
like
and
wearing a
my
mask and keeping your distance and maybe not getting together indoors or not getting together for a while at all or whatever. But after a bit, I'm like, okay, well, I'm ready to do life.
yeah.
So
Yeah, like
um,
how
you
long are we
you
gonna
yeah, like you all can keep not living. Like that's no problem
yeah,
for me. Like you go ahead, you do you, boo. You know. But like I'm gonna do the life.
yeah,
Maybe I'm feeling it even more poignantly because my mom's dying and she's
yeah,
only 64. You know. And sorry,
yeah.
that's like boom out of nowhere. Look, I've processed my shit. Like we found out she has cancer. It's been only a few months, but like I don't know. I'm pretty realistic about death. Like there's not much you can do about it.
Well, and
But
and that's always been the thing is people are, they've contracted COVID or they've gotten it and now, well, they're in ICU, you can't come visit them.
yeah,
Well, no? How about no? Like, no, I'm gonna go see my family. I want to
yep,
spend time, but the biggest thing for me, like I try to look at what are other people doing? What are people that are supposed to have the information doing? What did we have when COVID first started? Oh, Easter weekend, don't go visit your family. Well, what did some of our politicians do? They fucked off and went go visit with their family.
mhm,
Okay, so, well, if you're not worried about it, and I would assume you are more informed than me. Okay, then why should I be worried about it? Oh, well, don't go meet up for for Thanksgiving or anything like that. But but Trudeau, you went with your family to your cabin in Quebec,
Yeah.
but you told everyone else to stay home but
And it's funny because he, like, specifically even said, "Don't go to your cabin," stuff like that to people
it's
who have cabins. Yeah.
shelter in place. Oh, that sounds so nice back then. Just shelter in place.
Well, and like they're like, "Oh, we have to go do this big in-person climate change summit."
Yeah.
Like you that had to be in person? You didn't think like, "Hey, you know what? Maybe we could really reduce the effect on the environment if
Sure,
we
they could have
just
done
all
a
did this
massive Zoom call.
o- on Zoom?"
Well,
Like
yeah.
all the summits and stuff. Like I've been to a million. We were doing trade shows online for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Imagine that having a booth in an online, like
Uh,
virtual trade show venue. It's ridiculous. Um, no, it's very frustrating. And that do as I say, not as I do thing is, in my opinion, that goes back to like what we talked about last time we hung out, which was that whole idea of like modern day serfdom,
yeah.
right? We're sort of the serfs here because we live in this corporatist regime where corporations and government are colluding through these like public private partnerships and these like loopholes to get around the fact that they're not really legally allowed to force people to do things, but hey, if everybody's boss makes them do it, then it's kind of okay. And you
Yeah.
know we don't really, we're just going by the letter of the law, which allows us to, like, we're like, oh well, these people aren't represented as a protected class in the charter in this list of very specific things, so that are really meant to be sort of a general, hey, these are sort of things you shouldn't be a dick about. But
Well,
everybody has a right to be a person and not get bothered about shit. Um, you know, and so we're pushing all this stuff, but um at the same time, they're all of them just going off and doing what they want, right? And they're creating lots of opportunities to sort of loophole themselves out of their own
yeah.
mandates, or the things that they're saying we're not allowed to do. And it's getting really old, right? People are
Yeah.
getting tired of it.
Well, and like I was listening to the CBC today, and this is when like I when I
Were
was
you? Wow, that's brave. Whew.
uh well, and so they
Must
were
have been
talking
feeling
about
strong, strong in
well,
your heart.
I have to because like and I'll admit, yeah, I listen to a lot of stuff that kind of well, I would not reaffirm like there are like Jimmy Dore. A lot of the shit I do not agree with him on. I don't, but he's honest and he does his fucking research.
Absolutely. I
And
listen to other
yeah,
people's like different opinions. How else do you, like, you gotta challenge yourself
yeah.
and your beliefs. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I don't agree with like Jimmy says like, "Oh, well, the government should be giving us health care. Government should be, doing this and that." And all I'm thinking is, "Fuck no." Like it seems kind of contradictory and I'm not trying to like, throw mud at him, but government is inefficient and he said it himself, like it's inefficient at the best of times. And you want to give them more power over your healthcare? Like you can look at what happened in Italy when you have to start triaging deaths, who gets to live and who gets to die. Ah, I'm not okay with that. Like, oh, well, you're old. You had a good life. Just fuck it. Let him die.
Well,
I'm,
what gets me too, though, even about that is, I mean, do you wonder ever if some of this is sort of meant to like hide from us that they are ill prepared for the
oh,
boomers to
there
die?
was,
I've heard that kind of theory too, and that it at first, the first time I heard it, I was like, "No, I don't know, dude." More
could
times
be.
going by, and I'm like, maybe."
Well, back even from when I was a kid, and I'll get to the CBC thing in a sec.
Oh
But
yeah,
back from
sorry.
no, that's okay. But back even when I was a kid, I always heard like, don't rely on CPP being there because
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna die out. It's gonna be gone. It's a fucking Ponzi scheme
Yep.
until the baby boomers come and only reason it worked. So for anyone that doesn't know, CPP is our Canadian pension plan. So it's like our old age security for like the US.
Yep.
And so when you hit retirement age, you paid into this fund and you would now start drawing money out. Well, with the baby boomers, I believe it was for every one receiver, I think it was 8 or 10 people were paying into it. It's now kind of flipped. There's like 10 people withdrawing from it, and I think there's like 4 people or 6 people are paying into it.
So,
So,
and just as an aside to that, compared to when that program went into place, we have 400% more people of the boomer age, 55 to 75.
mhm.
And we only have 9% more people of working class age from 19 to 65.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's
Um,
the boot.
and our
Oh,
GDP is like triple what it was. So we're producing way more for our country as that tiny increase. And
yeah.
just the other day, the Feds announced that for next year, the cap on pensionable earnings will be increased. Did you hear that? Just since we're talking about CPP?
Oh
No.
no, I didn't. So they're
Oh
going to
yeah.
increase. So basically, try to
So they'll be
borrow.
charging you CPP on more of your income.
Yeah,
Previously, the cap was like 61 and 61,000 and change. And now it's going to be almost $4,000 higher, meaning that you'll be charged CPP rates on that much more of your income before they stop and cap it out and stop charging you. So
yeah,
that's going to happen
Right.
for everybody of working class. And they're going to, and for, I don't have a problem with them bumping up CPP payments to seniors because they are paltry. However, I don't want them to do that on the backs of the working class. And that's being done to try to buy boomer votes because Trudeau just, that's all he knows is
well,
to
and
throw money at
that's
things.
yeah, well, and that's been the big thing. Like, I posted how the US just raised its debt ceiling again, and my comment was, well, that's like using a credit card to pay off old debt.
Yeah.
You're not getting anywhere. You're in fact, you're making the problem worse. But you can't spend your way out of this. It's you know, I really I remember when we kind of first started it. I don't know if I was talking about it like when this first started, but it was like I feel bad for the restaurants. That's initially it. Like I feel bad for the mom and pop, the small places that were told to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have them on the other end having to enforce this whatever. Like I don't know when restaurants and stores or whatever suddenly became an enforcement arm of the government. But now I'm kind of like, well, you know what? Then fuck them. You're going to ask for a vaccine passport. This has, and again, this has never happened in human history.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have never been denied food, access to basic human rights. Looking at you, New Brunswick,
Yeah.
you have
Absolutely.
never been denied access to food, where they literally said, well, they can find it somewhere else.
Yeah. Hopefully somewhere else will let them in. Yeah,
Yeah,
this was something that we actually had established could not happen in Canada.
like,
Like, there are
uh,
several branches of government documentation that specifically say that vaccines cannot be made mandatory. That means, and that's what I hate about this whole going to the letter of the law thing. Like, we all know what that means. When a piece of national legislation actually uses the words vaccines cannot be mandatory because it is the individual who is taking on the risk, and thus
yeah,
they must be the one to make the final decision. We understand that that means that you also cannot leverage tax rebates
yeah,
to corporations in order to incentivize them to coerce their employees to become vaccinated under threat of loss of livelihood. Like, we sort of
yeah.
understand that we don't really need the law to really drill down and specify that particular thing.
Yeah, well, and that's
Right.
kind of the scary thing. But so okay, so I'll get
Sorry.
into
Okay. So now wrap it back around to the article.
Hold on, hold on, hold on,
yeah,
hold
so
on. So sorry, so what you said with it, like, it should be like it's up to the person, right? Because they're the ones taking
Yeah.
on the risk.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
with kind of wanting to say something about this article we were talking about in the beginning. So, there's been a few times in a few different, I guess, situations where you'll have a couple who's no longer together anymore. You'll have the father wanting one thing for their child, the mother wanting another thing for their child, and then they end up going to court. So, whether
Mhm.
that is, you know, uh,
Sex change.
sex change, yeah, I know. I was trying to think of how to say that, or this COVID vaccine or whatever. At what point, like, if you think the child is old enough to, to be able to do these things, and you're saying, "Okay, well, I'm gonna demand that this parent takes it because I think that, yeah, the kid should get the vaccine." So, yeah, I think the mom should be able to do that, and you have to shut up and allow it. At what point, though, why are they not asking the kids?
Honestly, I don't think it should be really any of the kids' decision.
I'm
I don't.
I'm so torn about it all because a few things to me, the bottom line is if the child is under the age of consent, then to me the only option should logically be
The
that you do
parents.
the thing that's reversible. If the
Yeah,
parents cannot agree, that you make the choice that is reversible, right? If there's any risk.
I would agree with that.
So to me, that was like when my kids were born. Okay, well, I have two sons. Well, are we going to get them circumcised? No, because that's not my penis. So we're going to do the thing that's reversible for them. And if they want to go do it later, that's on them. We don't have any
Yeah.
religious reason to do that,
Well, I mean, in
otherwise.
all
And even
fairness,
still,
you
I
did
don't
grow
personally
it.
support that. But yeah, like I did grow it, but like their body, our children are not our own, kind of thing. And they like, it's like that would be the thing that would be the alteration of the natural course of their body existing, right? So to
Yeah.
me, I would like do the thing that's the least invasive of the natural course of
Well,
of things.
when it comes to
But
the whole sex change and stuff like that, no, I don't think that should ever even be a thing for anybody who's
but even
under the age of adulthood.
like I just think it should be the thing that's the least invasive, or because like we live in a very well developed nation with excellent healthcare, right? So this
Whoa,
isn't
whoa,
like
whoa, 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 whoa. Excuse me.
well, compared to, for example, like an underdeveloped nation, like if you're living in like sub-Saharan Africa or something, you're not going to
Oh,
get access to the kind of healthcare and sanitation that we have here. I mean, sanitation is what provides healthcare. Let's be realistic.
Mhm.
As someone who is also interested in history and very, very interested in buildings and has worked on all kinds of projects in the building industry, sanitation and air quality are two of the hugest advancements in human health
yep.
that we know of, like like cleaning up our shit and washing our hands, you know and like opening windows and cleaning air inside of buildings like that. Those are the things that keep us well, really and truly, you know um so but anyway, to me, that whole idea of like if the vaccine or not, or the sex change or not, or whatever, it should be the least invasive thing unless there's some like super clear and present risk.
Yeah.
We live in a
Yeah.
horrible
I mean,
situation
I
with no
think I
health
just
care or
think like,
whatever.
look, when it comes to obviously like the whole sex change and stuff like that, I think that that whole uh, the idea of it is just absurd. Like it should not even be a thing. But when it's coming to say the vaccine, like
Yeah.
in a situation like that, like, what if I'm saying, "Yes, I want the kids to get the vaccine." Tyler's saying, "No, I don't want the kids to get the vaccine." And but then the kids are gonna be upset if they don't get the vaccine because they do want the vaccine. Or they're gonna be upset if you do give them the vaccine because they don't want the vaccine. Like, I think in different situations, why not ask the kid? Like, what is it that you want? What do you feel comfortable with? Okay, you've
I
heard your
think,
mom say this side of it. You've heard your dad say that side of it. What do you feel?
well, so they say that at 12 the kid can make their own informed choice, right? A lot of
Yeah.
parents have been frustrated about this, but it is true under law. At 12, the kid is their own individual and they can make their own informed choice if the healthcare provider deems them capable. Now, of course, if the healthcare provider is working in a vaccine clinic, they want the child to have the vaccine. They support this and believe that it is the right thing to do. So if the child is coming and agreeing, voluntarily, they're not going to be like, oh, I don't think this kid is really capable of making a good choice right now. Or I'm going to give them the scary information that might deter them. I highly doubt that anybody's going to do that. But at the
I would
same
hope they
time,
would.
but they don't. They don't have any informed choice discussion. A friend of mine went under kind of under duress, going to lose his job and wanting to coach his kids hockey, blah, blah, blah. But he was like, I want an informed choice conversation. The clinic he went to didn't even have a doctor, like an MD on site at all. They only had the one nurse who was busy and a bunch of aides and midwives and optometrists and stuff giving out vaccines. And he was like, well, I want to talk to a healthcare provider. And they were like, well, didn't you read the thing? Didn't you sign the pre-authorization? And, this kind
Yeah.
of stuff. And he's like, well, who's liable? And they're like, well, you're volunteering to do it, you
Yeah.
know? So, but they're not explaining this to kids properly. And they're certainly going to gladly give the kid the vaccine if the kid's rolling up their sleeve. But at
See,
the same time, I read a disturbing article about in PEI. They were saying they had a clinic at the school, and that a public official was saying we can't do this again because some students were. This is high school level, 12 and up. He was like students had to be try more than once. Some students were given sedatives. They were forcing because their parents had signed the form. They were forcing some students to do this in the school, or allowing the parents to force the students to do this within the school. And this official was upset by this.
well, right?
So
I mean,
And if you can consent, then you need to be able to decline as well,
well,
right?
and
And
that's
that's
yeah.
yeah.
that
Well,
to
and
me is a no brainer. If you're going to say that they can consent at 12, then they can decline at 12, and you better not fucking put that thing in their arm if they're saying no.
Yeah.
well, and that's so I would push back because there have been some doctors that have done like transition surgeries and they advocate for it. Oh yeah, absolutely. You should get it. You should get it. You should get it no matter what. Oh,
Hmm.
your child wants to dress up as a girl. Well, absolutely. Then you have to. Well, yeah, but no. How about no? Can I just say no? You're the state. I'm not interested in what you have to say. And where the state can come in and say, "Oh, well, you're damaging this child beyond repair." Um, I think putting a boy on estrogen blockers is doing damage that you cannot undo. You
Well,
can't.
do I have to spend $200 on a super cool Adidas jacket too, just because my kid wants one? I don't know. I'm not. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's
Right?
sometimes we want shit and mom and dad say no, and we're pissed off about it, and we go in our room and put on music and cry and write in our journal.
Yeah.
Well, and the
But
thing is,
so
a lot of these things too, like when you have that, okay, you could have, say, a kid that you knew when you were in elementary school, and you're like, dude, that kid's going to be gay when he gets older. Like, you
Yeah,
just know it, right? Like, you can just feel it.
yeah, for
And
sure.
okay, if you're seeing these behaviors and stuff like that from a child from a young age, and as they're getting older, getting older, getting older, these habits aren't changing. Plus, or they're accelerating or whatever. But it's kind of like, okay, well, I think and again, I'm not okay with this whole sex change thing, but underage. But if when they kind of got to that point, you'd be like, yeah, I kind of seen it coming, so makes sense. Like clearly, this is what the kid is wanting, right? Or what he identifies or she, whatever. Fuck. But
Well, I think it's
but
also super difficult if they're it's one thing to be gay and be like, yeah, I love you. You can be gay. It's another thing if your kid's like, I want to cut my tits off.
well, see, but that's the other thing too, because then you have a child who one minute is, oh yeah, well I'm definitely a boy, and I'm into girls, and then the next minute, no, I think I want to be a girl. And I'm into dudes. The next minute, no, I think I wanna be a furry. You know what I mean? It's ever changing, right?
Well,
So
or maybe it's not, but either way, why do we have to have body modification surgery? This is the piece I don't get. if you really want to, like, go nuts. You want to get a tummy tuck or a boob job or a nose job or whatever. Like, if you're really into it, I don't care. So you're an adult. You pay for your cosmetic surgery. Go nuts. I don't really care. No problem. But what I don't get is,
As
like,
an adult,
I
yeah.
can't just be like, well, I really don't like that since I lost a whole bunch of weight, my tummy is loose and I just want a tummy tuck because it makes me sad and feel bad in my body that it's like this now. I can't just do that and then now on the public health dime go get a tummy tuck. That's not how it works. But it make like, I
Well,
might like people have things they don't like about their body and they feel really upset about it. We have to like learn to live in our body and accept ourselves the way we come, Like
yeah.
I don't get it. I'm I just that piece is hard for me. Shouldn't we be what if we're especially to me that whole lefty side thing is like all about loving yourself. So just
You'd
be
think
into
so,
yourself how you
but
are,
it's
you
kind
know.
of it's kind of not anymore. But okay, so
Okay,
I'm gonna talk
r-
about this.
round it back up.
Okay, so I was listening to the CDC and they were talking about, well, the new Omnicorp variant. And
Mhm.
so they were saying, oh, well, with the new virus, has this changed your, your holiday plans? And I didn't feel mad when I was listening to people's responses. I felt sad and pity. So one person had said, yes, this has, because we live a very safe lifestyle. And, you know, it's kind of divided. Well, I guess another person had said, like, well, yeah, our family's kind of divided on it. And, it's been really hard to do. And we just want them to respect us. And honestly, I felt sad for those people. I truly did, to say, well, we want to go to Costa Rica and we know that they've done it better down there. Well, what do you mean by better? Like their implementation, their access to treatment? Because in North America, there is no treatment for COVID. It's either you overcome it or you die from it. There's no talk
Mhm.
about treatment.
Yeah, you
But
go home and wait until you can't breathe, and then you go to the hospital.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
that happens quite often. But so, I really felt sad hearing someone say, yeah, we're going to exclude our family. And this was an old, like you could hear, this is a very old person. And you know what?
Mhm.
I'm, immunocompromised, people that are over the age of 55. Yeah, I totally agree. Absolutely. I think they should get it. I don't think that's unreasonable because they're in a high risk category. Yeah. People with comorbidities, people that have, all the normal stuff that is talked about. But to hear someone say we're safe, we're just we live a safe lifestyle.
What does even safe mean?
Boring.
I that's what I thought. Like you don't go out, like you don't go dancing, you don't go enjoy meals. Like it's
You don't get in a car?
and they're like, well, we got our 2 vaccines and a booster shot, and you hear the person, whatever, the DJ or whatever, they're like, oh, good for you.
Mhm.
But
But
I don't know
also
if
don't
like
go out or see anybody,
yeah,
or
like
touch anything, or let
No.
anybody near us.
yeah, and it just I felt bad, like, you know, like this one lady, like, you're very old. Sorry, you're very old. How
Mhm.
much time, like, I for okay, so for me, I always look at it as like as being like an agnostic atheist. Like I wouldn't say I don't believe in God. The best case is I don't know.
Yeah,
And so, but what
right
I
there
do
with you.
know is this is real. Whatever you want to consider real, don't start this simulation bullshit.
Yeah, yeah,
Shut up.
yeah, yeah. I'm there with you. But the thing that we're
Yeah.
living, yeah,
Yeah. Like I
this is
know.
happening for us right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only guarantee is right now. And
Mhm.
I feel terrible that I can't go see my mom or my stepdad and go spend Christmas with them. I feel terrible. I hate it. I honestly, and it's really sad to see some people are just, oh well, we'll just deal with it and we'll carry on. But like I love our house being full of people. You know,
Mhm.
honestly, I'm excited for Christmas to hear, plates clinging, people laughing, people
Yeah.
enjoying. Like I I love that. I want that. And to think of, well, we'll just sit at home and yeah, I guess we'll watch a movie and we'll make a little something and we'll just sit here. Like, some
So
people are great, but it's more the idea of like all I heard from these people, like outside of the sad and pity, the fear.
mhm.
They're afraid and them saying, well, with the new Omnicorp variant. Okay, but alpha's uh transmissibility was 2. So for anyone that doesn't understand, that means for every one person, 2 people get infected.
Mhm.
Delta was 1 in 10. So that was the most, virally transmissible out of anyone yet. And they're saying, "Oh, well, new Omnicorp variant is going to, in Ontario, if models hold true, well, they're going to have 10,000 infections a day. 10,000 infections. Oh my God, you'd think the fucking sky is falling." But what they don't talk about, it's less transmissible with the information that's available. It's 1 in 4. So it is actually less transmissible. And as the time of this recording, it is less deadly. That
Yeah.
is what the initial information is showing, and people are I don't know if it's just like a cycle of just fear and just keep pumping it out,
Yes,
and
it is.
you think
Like,
you think, like, do you really think the CBC, the same corporation that gets $600 million in bailouts from us, is going to not tout the line from the people that are giving them the money?
Yeah.
Like,
honestly, I had this conversation twice today at work. I had 2 separate people, both, "Oh, this new Omnicorp variant or whatever, like, did you hear? Like, it's here and they're thinking that by Christmas or by the New Year, we're gonna have like 1,000 cases per day." And one of the guys, I was just like, "Okay." And he's kinda standing there staring at me. I'm like, "Well, oh, I'm not really concerned." And he's like, "Why aren't you concerned?" I'm like, well, because it's not as it doesn't have the same side effects, it's not as deadly. I said, "To this day, there's been 1 person so far who's died from the Omnicorp variant. That's
Yeah,
it."
like, in the whole
So,
world from this.
yeah, so
Is it Omnicorp? Now you're messing with my head. It's
no,
Omnicron, right?
yeah, it's Omicron, but I just call it Omnicorp because it sounds
Um,
funny.
and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's
It's
I
from,
get it.
Detroit,
Yeah,
RoboCop.
yeah. I'm
but
all over it. I totally get it. Yeah, and now I'm like, "Wait a minute, I'm just second guessing myself." Is it
no,
um,
but even still, like, and I said that to my other coworker as well, but I'm just like, "Good." Like, that's a good thing. I said, "I don't know, like, everybody's freaking out about this, like, oh my
how
god,
do
it's
you
here
let
and da da
go
da
of
da da."
something once you've acted so upset about it, right?
I
Like, that's
know.
the trouble. It's been looming, and how do you, like, you know and I think that's kind of what they want, honestly, because I don't think that this is ever like, the government gets a lot of power from emergency,
Oh,
and
100%.
they're all making money hand over fist through investments through this, and
Mhm.
they would love to see this be a steady cash cow,
Yeah.
that they keep doing this for all kinds of viruses and just keep us in this, and they want us depersonalized. And I don't like, I think that this is not the trouble is there isn't any one agenda. People say, well, why? There isn't any one agenda. Each one of them perpetuating this has their own personal agendas that are just all served by the things happening. That's why it all seems a bit disorganized, because it is.
There's a name for that. I can't remember what it's called. It's something like shit. Um, hold on. All right, go talk. I'm gonna look up
So
the
Well, okay, well,
so
we're figuring that out. But this person too that I was talking with, like I told him, I said, well, that's like it's a good thing. I said people should be happy that it's becoming
mhm,
it's less transmissible, it's less side effects, it's less deadly. So that's what you want. I was like, so to be completely honest, like the virus, if it's killing people off, the virus doesn't even want that. The virus wants to be able to jump person to person and be more transmissible. A dead
yeah,
host isn't a good host. And
no,
the one guy, like, even still to this day, after all of this has been going on, he's like, I don't know if we're ever gonna get back to normal and if we're ever gonna not be able to wear these masks. Like, I don't know if this thing's gonna go away. And I just kind of looked at him blankly. I'm like, it's not gonna go away. He's like, it's not a um I don't remember what he said, something about the pandemic and stuff like that. I'm like, "This isn't polio. You cannot take a vaccine to make an influenza virus go away. It is
mm-mm.
never going to go away. This is an endemic. We have to learn how to live with it, and you'll just get a flu shot every year like other people do for the regular flu. You're also gonna have this flu shot for the, COVID. Who knows? Maybe they'll
Or
just combine it
or
in one.
not.
Yeah,
Like,
but
or you can also not, like everybody did before too. Like the
oh, I
flu
never
shot
took flu
itself,
shots. Yeah.
though lots of people choose to take it, it isn't actually very effective because it's always based on the prior year's strains that were dominant. And it's only effective when done before the actual outbreak because you're more susceptible, actually, not that same year, but the year following an influenza immunization, you're more susceptible to other coronavirus infection and severe symptoms when you take flu vaccines. But they're just not very effective at all. Like they're under 20%
Yeah.
efficacy
But
in general, you know.
I don't know. I think it
So
mind baffles me how many people still think that if everybody gets the quote unquote vaccine, that everything is going to go back to normal, everything's going to be fine again. It's like, when are you people going to wake up? This is not a pandemic, this is an endemic. It's never going to go away. And the sooner people can realize that and move on with their lives, I think the sooner things will get back to your quote unquote normal and people realize that what's happening right now is fucking bullshit. Like they're making
hey,
you do all these mandates and stuff like that for something that's never going to go away.
so did you see that, speaking of the mandates and shit, did you see that thing I shared just like yesterday about the number needed to exclude? So for
No.
medicines, there's like a number needed to treat. Okay. So this is a really effective way to decide how many people do we have to give this medicine before we get one result, whatever the result is, right? How many people do we have to give Lipitor before one person's cholesterol goes down or to prevent one heart attack, right?
Oh.
This type of thing. Okay. So this is and it's actually a great way to decide whether or not to take a medicine. And often for many of these medicines, it's a very shitty number. So they took this because this is a good like metric. And they said, well, what's the number needed to exclude? How many people do you have to exclude by a vaccine mandate before you prevent one person from getting sick, from transmitting? We're not even just talking about then having a severe outcome or then dying, but we're just saying to transmit. And what they found through using public models available on like Our World and data, not any kind of their own data, they just use public data available. Um, they found that you would have to exclude 1,000 unvaccinated people to prevent one transmission.
Oh my
And
god.
that's like at their most severe estimate.
Well, and that's I think that would be quite well. Well, I don't. If you see like the things working together, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the. It's the idea of many individual parts seeming to coalesce to produce one thing. So let's
Mm.
say like I can't remember what the hell it's called. It's bugging the shit out of me.
Yeah, I know I have an idea. I think of what you're talking about. I'm thinking about it in the back of my brain too, hoping that it's going to come to me. Like it's that it's almost like the way DNA goes together, right? Like we thought that was a really sort of planned and coordinated thing, but we now understand that that as that chain zips up, it's really just sort of chance that they sort of just flop over there,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, and it's just
Um,
like a bunch of individual actors. So let's say, like the when they remove like Alex Jones,
mhm.
it could be like, well, this person, like say like Facebook was saying, and I'm not saying this is what happened to Alex Jones. I believe it
Yeah, yeah.
was actually like a coordinated effort to get him the fuck out. But
Mhm.
if it was like, oh well, he said something on YouTube, well, they took action, and then oh well, Facebook seen that well he did something on our platform, so they took action. So it was a lot of individuals, and it seemed like they coalesced to produce like it seemed like a coordinated effort. And
Yeah.
so I think there is some individual choices, but and I'm gonna rag on Harper because I seen people saying, "Oh, great job, Prime Minister, you're doing a great job," and all I was thinking was, "What is he doing? He's literally taking the easy road out. He's just saying, well, if you don't get it, then then shut the fuck up. Oh well, we're running out of patience with you. Excuse me. Last I checked, I'm not a child." And you're running out of patience with me. It's weird how you think, and maybe some people do just allow it. They look for leaders, and maybe that's the main thing is people just want to be controlled. They're too they don't
Sure.
want to think. They don't want to be an individual. They're too happy just to yes, no, well, not even no, just yes, yes.
Well,
Like I
and
think
that's the whole
Michael
just listen to your
Malice.
doctor thing, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, and I think Michael Malice talks about it. Like he says, like people are all too happy to be slaves. They
mhm,
love to be controlled because they're too stupid.
mhm.
He'll put it a lot, well, maybe not a lot more eloquently, but it's kind of that same thing. People don't want to fight for anything. They just want to be told what to do and just shut up. But like and that's the
Well,
easy choice. And
people
Peter,
also play to that denominator.
yeah,
Right? Like there was like a city where I don't know, some bridge was cut off and this area didn't have any fire department access for, I don't know, some period of time, 48 hours or 72 hours or something. And they made a radio announcement and lo and behold, for that 72 hours, they had like fewer than 10% of the fire calls that they normally had in that area. Because when you know there's nobody who would come and save you, you don't fuck around with the stove.
yeah,
Like, you know, and
yeah.
start to be like, well, they wouldn't let you do that. Well, somebody would stop me if I wasn't supposed to, right? We start to have this attitude, like, well, they wouldn't let me if it wasn't safe, and
Well, and
that's a
it's like
terrible idea.
and it's almost like the delusion or the disillusion of responsibility
Hmm.
that, well, I'm just listening. I'm just listening to what Dr. Rosen says. Well,
Yeah.
last I checked, he's not an elected official.
Hmm.
So I've made this thing before. So anyone, if you went to a doctor and said, "Hey doc, what should I do? Like, what is the best way to get over this?" They're gonna give you, hey, you should probably, start walking. You should probably stop eating unhealthy foods. You should start, you know, maybe taking vitamins or supplements. They're gonna go to the extreme. Well, this is what you have to do. If you want to end it, lock everything down, get everyone, on the same page. Everyone has to do this. Okay, but I need to go to work. So I'm gonna talk to my financial advisor. And they're going to say, okay, well, then, this is the type of money that you need to make. This is the type of money we need to generate in order to keep the business afloat. Okay, so now I have to weigh those two options. I can go the extreme and I lose the business, or I can do everything that my financial advisor says and not listen to my doctor. You have to weigh those things. So I figured Pallister, with being the big conservative, no bullshit, big talker, does fuck all, would actually say is something to the effect of, well, we can't do that considering he is a business owner, but he was getting rich off of our fucking tax dollar.
Mhm.
That's my problem. So he doesn't have any skin in the game. He's getting paid no matter what. His employees were getting paid no matter what. Oh, it's just, government coffers. Well, we'll enact this policy so that people do get paid. How fucking weird. And it's just it's the it's the ability just to say, well, I didn't think that is just supposed to be guidelines. Exactly. But that's it. It's guidelines. And seeing so many people are just so willing. Like I said, listening to the CBC and they were saying, well, does the vaccine, does it protect me? Does it protect me from the new variant? Or does the vaccine protect me from COVID at all? It's
Nope.
a really interesting word to use, is to say protect. 'Cause protect usually means that it withstands, it repels something that would do harm to you. That's
Well, yeah,
typically what it
yeah,
means.
those are pre-planned questions too. And I'm sick too of people not even now. COVID-19 and SARS-CoV-2 mean the same thing to everybody, and they're not the same thing. You can contract a virus, and these vaccines ever, ev- ever were only ever made to stop you from getting the severe disease COVID-19, which is like a symptom. It's like when you can have a cold and you can have a symptom of croup. uh, and I have a croupy cough. But croup isn't there's no virus called croup. You have a cold virus and then you have a symptom of croup, or you can have a cold virus and then get a symptom of pneumonia, or you know.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well,
it's there's this level of confusion is there too. You're getting vaccinated for COVID-19 for severe disease, not for contracting the virus.
Well, you know where
well,
the
and
other
and
confusion lies in, though, is the fact that people are changing the meanings of words. Vaccine
Hmm.
used to be made or meant for actually protecting you against a disease that can be eradicated or pretty much eradicated. This is not,
Rendering immunity.
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
this is not going to be that you cannot, a vaccine and a flu shot are two totally different things. This is a flu shot we're getting. We're getting a flu shot for COVID. This isn't a vaccine because it's not going to make it go away. It never will. So they're deciding to change meanings of words like vaccine, just like they do
Hmm.
with anti vaxxers. Well, anti vaxxers are people who didn't want to take vaccines or give their kids vaccines, any sort of vaccine. Where now they've changed that to anti vaxxers, to people who are against getting the COVID vaccine and against
Not even
getting.
that. Not even that. It's worse.
Uh,
It's worse. So I'm going to stop you with
uh,
that because it's not just someone that's against the COVID vaccine, it's people that are against mandates.
I was
They are
getting
now
there.
being, well, they're well, but that's the thing. It's already becoming, you're opposed to mandates? You're an anti-vaxxer. It
Yep.
No, Eric Clapton is an anti-vaxxer. But he got the vaccine. He's just saying he had a bad reaction to it.
For what
Oh,
it's
well,
worth, too, like, I'm not anti. Personally, I haven't taken that vaccine, and I'm not intending to unless something comes to dramatically change my mind, which it may happen. Like, stranger things have happened. But I really dislike that term anti-vaxxer, and it is meant to be inflammatory. Anti, I don't care if other people want it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm not against its existence. I'm not fighting for it to not exist. I'm just like, no, thank you. Like, I'm not anti apple juice, even though I just don't prefer it and I'm not going to have any.
Well, but I'm gonna tell you, if you don't get it, I'm not safe, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, if I don't have apple juice, you will be thirsty.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? Do you
Like,
know that guy who does the videos? JP Sears is his name, and he has one
oh,
about
the
life
Awaken with
jackets.
Yeah, the Waking with JP. He's like, yeah, well,
Yeah.
he has his vest on. He's like, well, if you don't put it on, I'm gonna drown. But you have one on.
And he's like, I've had swimming lessons. I know how to swim. And like he's
Yeah,
like, it feels like that,
yeah,
Um we have family that's kind of a little bit concerned about holidays, and someone said to my partner, well, we're worried about getting you sick. Um and it's kind of like, okay, that's a whole new level of martyrdom
yeah,
that
right.
I'm not going to be taking on. Thanks kindly. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not playing that game at all. I get to make my choices. I take my own risk. Like, that's not, I don't know. If we all go hiking together, are you going to be like, well, we're worried about making you break your ankle?
yeah, yeah. So we're gonna take extra precautions because you're too dumb.
You can't come hiking with us
Yeah, yeah,
because we're worried you might not have good boots that we think are the best boots, and you might break your ankle, so you can't come hiking with us. Like,
yeah. And that was a lot of like what kind of bugged me. But I'm gonna switch gears a little bit. So I shared that video of from Rebel News with David, who I think is super fun. How him getting roughed up by Trudeau's RCMP, our tax dollars to rough up citizens. And
yeah,
so
that
so
was
if any
great to see.
yeah. So and you know what? And I can push back because I understand the idea of framing. Framing is everything. And anyone, search Tanky and saying, the empty walls, which was in reference to the camera lens. They're only showing you what you want to see.
Sure, of course. Of course.
So
Hey, was he in the street blocking the motorcade? Like, I did see at the beginning that they were being like, "Get out of the street," and I couldn't tell if he was actually standing in the street or not.
I couldn't tell either, and that's kind of where like I go, well, did he? I would have to watch it again, but it was more the
But when they grabbed him, he was on the sidewalk
yeah,
for
yeah. And
sure.
then they said that they broke his cell phone and his watch, and then they
Yeah,
wouldn't say anything. Like I'm sure
yeah.
after they got the officers' badge numbers, but seeing stuff like that, I and you know what? Michael Malice is starting to rub off on me a little bit because he has said there is no police officer, there is no law too heinous up to including the murder of children that a police officer will not enforce. And that is quite the fucking damning statement. Because how many officers have gone into places? We've seen video over and over of officers going into places that are supposed to be something protected, which should, I think, if you're going to put restrictions on anything, it should meet an absolute, like the strictest standard. And I think any law should have a sunset clause built in by law. It has to be in there.
Like,
So,
as in to come up for review? Is that
yep,
what you mean? Yeah.
yep. If
Yeah,
it
I would
does not
agree.
if it does not fulfill its intended purpose. So if they're saying, "Hey, this is the law that we're looking at enacting and it needs to complete X, Y, and Z." If in, maybe 4, 5, 10 years, if it does not meet that, then if it's not if it's not re-voted on, it just goes away.
But you know what, too? It doesn't really provide any fail safe, and because an example would be right now they're supposed to be doing all this ongoing review of the jobs, right? But then they're just not.
Yeah. Well,
Like, they're
and
just kind of like, and yeah, so we didn't, um, you know, and like the manufacturers are going, oh, we actually, so I know we said that we could give you that info like in like 55 years, but it's
yeah.
actually we're gonna need 75. So just like everybody will be dead by then anyway. So can we just kind of like, I mean, what's a little paperwork between friends?
That is
Um,
unfucking believable. that will get you that information in 50 years.
Now 70, they literally now say 75.
But even 50 years will get you that info. Yeah, exactly. When
What?
everyone's dead and none of this fucking matters.
Like, seriously, 50 years. And that just to me is like the very first question for me, because I just go so practical. I'm like, so how do you know it's okay then? Like, if
Well,
you're telling me you can only print it off at 500 pages a month, like you don't have it compiled, you don't have the information to give, it's not there then. And then you didn't look at it properly either.
Well, and so, I'm seeing,
like
like I said,
they're asking for a really long extension on their project here.
Yeah.
You know?
And so it's crazy to see, police going into places, shutting things down. But so I was gonna say, and any politician, whatever their platform is, if they do not fulfill it, so if they on their platform say, "Hey, I'm gonna do, I don't know, whatever, I'm gonna and make sure that all cars are electric by 2030." Okay, if 2030 comes and they're still in office and they have not fulfilled their promise, gone. Whatever it is for their 4-year term, let's just say keep it to their term. So in 4 years, if they say, well, I'm going to look at lowering taxes, I'm going to look at, working on infrastructure, I'm going to look at trying to get, jobs back in Canada, trying to focus on that type of stuff. If in 4 years you have not made progress, if not enacted those, you're gone. If you put a time frame on and you do not complete what you are seeking to do, you're gone.
Yeah.
But people just, let's just, more laws, less justice. And that's a lot of what's happening. And, like I said, you see police going into places, shutting it down because they're, well, if I speak out, I'm going to be one of them.
Yeah. We had this family friend who was this really awesome gal when she grew up in the Depression in the country here in Manitoba, in rural Manitoba. Her dad was a lawyer and they didn't have much need for lawyers in the Depression. So she lived in a grain bin with her many siblings and rocked her brother in an apple crate when he came home from the hospital, things like that. Grew up like that. And when she was 17, she wanted to join the army. She went and lied and said that she heard girls could sign up. She and her brother, and she lied about her age, and he attested to that, and they signed up, and she was a sergeant when she uh, what's it called? She was discharged from the army.
Okay.
Anyway, then she was married, blah, blah, blah. And then she left her husband and got 2 degrees, 1 degree in science and a degree in law in her 50s after her kids went off to college and then practiced as a lawyer. And all this to say, she would sometimes say this great phrase that just, man, it is, I have said this phrase in more meetings and, conversations than probably any other phrase I know. Hard cases make bad law.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Bad. Yeah.
That's why there's some city that has some kind of law that you can't have an elephant on Main Street and roller skates or,
Yeah.
right? You didn't need to make a law for that. You just needed to go, everybody realizes this is a very bad plan.
Yeah.
Put the elephant away, sir.
Well, and we're seeing a lot of that with, with the kind of the transgender, right thing. I'll say this now. I don't give a fuck. I could not possibly care less. I don't care what you are. I'm not invalidating your existence. You're a person. You're, are you a good person or a bad person? We can have that discussion. If you're just, well, you don't, if you don't call me a Flibbledorf, then you're denying my existence. No, I just don't care.
Well, I'll call you whatever you want. But just if you want to be part of things and it just be normal, then let's get there. already is where I'm ready to be at now. Like, let's get to the Star Trek place.
Yeah. Well, and that's
Can
the thing. Like we grew up with, Star Wars, Star Trek. You know, I grew up watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like Family Matters. Like they were all mostly they were black dominated or very multiracial, like really racial, like an alien that has like a giant tail for hair.
Right, like why
Like,
are we even today being like, oh my gosh, for what it's worth, I didn't see the Black Panther movie, but of course I heard lots of the vibe about how it was so great and it representational and how much that matters. But I did have some moments of being like, on the one hand, absolutely, I get that. I get that. Like, I grew up white, obviously, like everything's tailored to me. And I do see that. Like, even just little things like there's no black Santa or whatever, and blah, 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 white tradition.
well,
And I'm
well,
German, I'll claim Santa. Like, I was pissed off when they were like, anybody can decorate the Christmas tree with their Kwanzaa decorations. Well, kind of so. I mean, that's a Yule tree. There's a lot of history there, but okay, whatever. I guess if you want to have the tree, will be nice. I don't know. Go ahead, sure, enjoy. But anyway, I lost my train of thought, and I think I'm still interrupting you, so I should shut up.
no,
But
but so, no, but it was more like, well, because this one child wanted to have it, now we're going to make sweeping legislations that will protect the absolute minority to an extreme degree, to the point of Mike Ward being sued for making a joke about someone. That is
well,
bad law, like an extreme example of it.
absolutely, absolutely. But like, there's that Ayn Rand quote where she says the smallest minority is the individual. If you reject
Mhm.
individual rights, you can't claim to be a defender of minority rights. And I would agree with that. But I think we have to start really differentiating between like having a right and being able to sue someone for just making you feel a certain way.
Well, that's happening in uh was the Dutch government sued a sitting uh senator. I'm not sure what they call them there, but because they were making uh drawing analogies or comparisons to 1930s Germany to what's
Hmm.
happening now, and he got fined. In fact, he was getting fined $2,500 a day for leaving tweets up comparing the government. So this is what is scary. So, like, because he is criticizing the government in such a way, and because ultimately it hurts someone's feelings. It hurts someone in government's feelings. So let's take that to the next step. Well, all politicians are liars and thieves. You can't say that. You're not allowed to say that about the government. So
Like, yeah. And like,
that
I need to be able to say that because I live here in this country, I definitely need to be able to say shitty things about the politicians in my country.
yeah, but so yeah, I guess to kind of get back with the rebel news thing, like it was incredible to see. The officers had no problem doing it. Like, okay, let's assume, let's say that he was kind of he was on the sidewalk or he was on the street, and they said,
Hmm.
"Hey, get off the street. You're blocking the motorcade from coming." You
Yeah.
seen him? He got off the street, but
Yeah.
then after, where they went and grabbed him and threw him up against a wall and roughed him up. Now, like, so I ended up sending out a tweet to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau,
Hmm.
his the Canadian PM account, Justin Trudeau himself, Aaron O'Toole, and Rebel News. And I'm saying, so typically, free speech is your right to say and do as long as you're not hurting someone else. You are allowed to film them. You are allowed to say you're an idiot. You should be able to say that. I'm kind of an absolutist in that way. You
Yeah.
should be allowed to. And the worst case is I plug my ears and walk away. But you can't even do that. Like, you're not allowed to just say, "Eh, I don't care." Like, and it's so it's so crazy to see the amount of I don't know what's the right way to put it. The amount of people that are so okay. Like, okay. So sorry, I'll say this. So on Twitter, I was saying like anyone is supposed to be a journalist. Anyone can be a journalist. Technically, I guess what we're doing is a form of journalism.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is reporting on news, except we give our opinions and we try and talk and have discussions about things. But it's crazy to see the absolute outward attacks on what would be. So let's just take the Rebel News narrative, the name off of it, and just say, hey, this is a group of people that are seeking information. Anyone, take Rebel News out. Take that off.
Well,
So
the interesting thing is those officers would be more justified in the eyes of the law in like roughing the individual up if they were just a citizen,
but
because they have to have a press pass to even be there.
Well, but out on a public street.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to be here. Well, why not? It's public because I said so.
Right. And I mean, that's the whole thing is he's like, I'm press and also I'm standing on the sidewalk. I'm just a person being on the sidewalk and you're like attacking me.
Yeah. And so I ended up saying, like, is this what you think of all citizens? Because like, take the Rebel News off. Anyone is able to film and speak in the comments. You should be allowed. That should be something protected. As long as you're not inciting violence, okay? I think that's reasonable. To say, "Hey, go kill that person." I think that's reasonable. But to say, "I don't like you. Amy, I think you're dumb."
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I don't think that needs any kind of policing. Is this elementary school? Like,
yeah.
and in fact, for what it's worth, I know for us, for our generation, when we would come home, like, and say somebody was mean to me today, my parents weren't completely insensitive. Sometimes, someone would say, yeah, that can be hard, or,
Oh, just ignore it.
that
Just
kind of
ignore it.
thing.
Yeah,
Sure. But there was also the just ignore it or sticks and stones or whatever. And
yeah.
I mean, some of that felt dismissive at times when we were kids. But I think also some of it was a way that a generation was trying to kind of teach us, like, you can't always get worked up about things that people say to you.
Yeah.
Because that is the truth. You just can't.
Yeah,
Like,
people are gonna say that's the thing is, and this, and I've seen the argument, so, in regards to hate speech. Well, to who? Because your definition of hate speech, it could be very different than my definition. So if I'm in a position of power, I now get to oppress you. So if someone said, well, I think God is all and everything, well, that offends me because I don't believe in God. So you are going to be charged for hate speech. That's
well, and
that's
that's
kind
that.
of the problem here.
Right. And that's the whole thing, is it goes back to that. Isn't us being accepting, and I use that word intentionally instead of say the word tolerant,
Mhm.
for example, because I don't like that. Like, I shouldn't be tolerating,
Yeah.
like holding my nose. Right. I should be accepting, like, it's fine for everybody to be how they're going to be. And I accept their decisions and I accept their free choice and will. And I accept that, like, people are going to, I can't eliminate all my risks in my life and my existence and all of that. And I guess when that's really what it comes down to. I mean, we could all eliminate all our risks if we allowed the government to imprison us all the time in our homes. Um, you know,
Well,
and to
I
not
don't.
connect with people and
Well, and I think having a discussion and especially a disagreement, like an absolute, like, this is what I think, and I say this is what I think, and we talk about it. it's okay to not agree 100% with someone. Like, I'm sure there are things like me and Kim, we agree on a lot, but there are some things that we don't agree on.
Mhm.
But you talk about them and then, oh, I didn't consider that. I didn't think about that. I'm gonna have to evaluate my thought. There's many things I've changed my opinion on. Many things. Because
Lots of healthy couples
yeah,
have something they disagree on, like throughout their relationship, something major,
yeah,
even.
yeah, yeah. And I think especially having that discourse, at least having, I should say, even having the ability. So I guess to kind of go all the way back to talking about, like, Dr. McCullough, was we can't even have the discussion.
Mhm.
You can't even say, well, here's a treatment. This is a potential treatment. We should be celebrating that. People ragging on Joe Rogan for his horse dewormer thing.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's just say, what if he did take ivermectin and he got better?
Well, he did.
Great. But that was one thing in a laundry list of things that he took.
Sure, yeah, he took a bunch of stuff, and that's the whole thing that McCullough is trying to explain is there are lots of illnesses that we have to treat for the variety of symptoms that come with that
Mhm.
illness,
Yeah.
and that
And
we
he
need,
said,
like, a complementary suite of medications.
yeah, and but people just kept saying, like, and I remember hearing, like, from Tim Pool, he was saying, like, I was going down. Like, he was having a hard time breathing, and he was actually thinking, I gotta go to the hospital.
Mhm.
He said he was at that point, like, I cannot breathe. So he was going down, and he got better. And everyone just says, "Oh, well, he just took horse paste. He took horse." Even if he did,
He still got
he
better. That's something to pay attention to.
yeah, instead of just ridicule, and it's scary to see. You see Stephen Colbert. Oh, presented by Pfizer. You see CNN news channels presented by Pfizer.
Yeah. Yep,
Are
they're just raking in money. And did you guys see that movie, Idiocracy?
I haven't yet, but I want to.
Oh my goodness, you would love, like, seriously, go watch that movie right now. You would love that movie. You will absolutely, like, you watch that movie and then phone me and
Okay.
like let's
Oh,
have a watch party.
What is it?
Seriously. Are like, this movie is about a guy who is, like, in, say, present day, but I mean the movie's maybe 15, 20 years old now, but at present day, and he's kind of dumb based on present standards. And he's in the army. And we convince him to get cryogenically frozen. And he comes out of it, like, I don't know, I think about 1,000 years later. And now he and this hooker who also got frozen are the two smartest people in the world.
oh, okay.
That's
Because
scary.
in the future, they have way more tech, but they're all really, really, really dumb.
Okay.
And their crops
Who's
aren't
in this
growing. And
movie?
uh, Luke Wilson
Okay,
and oh shoot, what's her name? That
I've seen it.
gorgeous. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, it's
yeah.
starting to sound really familiar here.
Yeah, well, watch it through your current lens if you haven't watched it for a while. But it is so poignant. And they're just, everybody drinks Brondo, which is like a sports drink. Um, and they put it on their crops and the crops don't grow. And he's like, maybe you should just try some water. And they're like, you mean like water from the toilet? And he's like, well, not Brondo. And he's like, they're like, Brondo's got what plants crave. Like,
Oh my.
they're just, it's so good. The president is like a wrestler with machine guns, and it's so
Is that
good.
is that Terry Crews?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll have to watch that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Anyway, sorry. So
yeah. Um I don't know what the fuck was I saying. Um oh, but I guess, like,
the that, like, propagandizing of it is what you were describing. That's what got me thinking about
yeah,
um
And I think that is like, I think we should be championing and trying to find, and like, as you know, as the doctor was saying, like, we're trying to find these types of treatments, and it's just kind of, well, and this is where he made the point about the mass formation of psychosis was like, we're so focused. They ended up funneling just, well, it has to be the vaccine. That's it. That's all we can really do, instead of looking
Mhm.
at treatments. And so after listening to him talking, you can hear, like, he starts to actually get quite upset about it. He's bothered by it. Like I said, at the onset, was this isn't some nobody. He is a highly decorated doctor and a very
Mhm.
respected doctor. He's not some Joe Blow.
No, he's not.
And so it's just crazy to see. And hey, do vaccines work? Yeah. But do they immunize you? Unfortunately, no. And and you've seen Trevor Noah, as fucking stupid as he is 99% of the time, when he goes, well, if the Pfizer CEO is saying maybe we should get a fourth shot or a fifth, is that not an invested, or he has a conflict of interest? And he gets railed for it.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, you're just selling out." Like, hey, you remember, like, the Puritans, and, just being, like, a total fucking square? The people that are on the side of, like, the big pharma and just shut up and listen to the government and own the cons and own the libs, and, uh, like, a lot of this stuff, yeah, he says is really fucking dumb. Have you ever heard or watched his show without the audience? It's fucking painful.
Yeah.
It is so painful. You realize just how un how, like, uninteresting he is. And but just to see him get flamed so hard for saying what, yeah, like, if the shoe was on the other foot, if let's say if Trump was in office, and remember, Kamala Harris was saying, "Well, I don't know what's in that. I'm not gonna take it." And you
Oh,
see
yeah.
so many other politicians saying, "Well, I'm not gonna take it." But why the sudden change of heart? And that's
That
like I said,
is
that's
all just to get rid of Trump. Like,
yeah, and
that Project Veritas had videos even of guys from high up at CNN being like, "Yeah, we intentionally blew this up like crazy to just further drive the nails into Trump's coffin."
yeah. Well, the whole, the Steele dossier, if anyone's been paying attention, it's completely fabricated. And it's for the point of winning at winning's sake, at the expense of lives, people's lives, whether it's livelihoods or their actual life. And uh, makes me so frustrated. Makes me
Well,
frustrated.
also, like, what's our nature is like, I know for me, if I screw up, like, maybe I'm late to an online meeting at work, or maybe a real life meeting at work. Am I most likely to be like, yeah, I fucked around on my phone for too long after my shower this morning, and then I also stopped for coffee? Or am I more likely to be like, oh shoot, I caught a train, or I couldn't find a parking spot, or I got lost on my way here, or that kind of thing instead, right?
Mhm.
Like, and that's just our nature, is to want to cover up that, especially if we were irresponsible, you know, um, is to just sort of say, like, well, no, no, it's not my fault. It's not on me, right? Or to, oh no, it's not a problem, right?
Yeah.
Like a
No, it was the bus's fault. Like,
right,
and, and,
right.
and And I've made this point before. Like, I think 100% Barack Obama should be tried against crimes against humanity. I think Trump should be tried for crimes against humanity. I think Joe Biden should be tried for crimes against humanity. I think Justin Trudeau should be charged for crimes against humanity. So
Man. Oh
I'm
yeah.
on I'm on either side. I don't care. If you're going to cause mass death to people, you should be tried for fucking war crimes. But
Yeah, I know, right? And it's really sad, all of it. Sad
yeah,
state of affairs.
well, you see the stuff with Epstein. Hey, you know what? If Trump was there and he was getting a lap dance by a young underage girl, I hope the information comes out. As long as,
Oh,
in
you,
addition to all the other people that helped fund that, allowed it, and continued to fund it.
you see the double speak from like the right wing Trumpers on that shit though. I feel so politically homeless all the time. More and more
Well,
each day, I feel politically homeless. And I mean, I
well,
know that what happens with especially late stage capitalism, which I believe is corporatism, it's different
mhm,
from what capitalism is. It is that you end up with a two-party system, and it becomes that both parties mean the same thing,
yeah, the
because they're
uniparty.
both
Yeah.
trying to vie for the same voter base, right? But I feel so constantly politically homeless. And I watch these people that are like, they're simultaneously big megas, like hardcore. Their Twitter says, Trump all the way, blah, blah, blah. But then they're also like going hard on the Epstein thing. And
Yeah.
I'm like, how can you have this just total dichotomy? Like it's like you have these mutually exclusive thoughts. Like Trump is all over that Epstein shit. Like,
Well, and the argument I seen, well, at least with his explanation. So I can only go off of what was divulged. So, but he said, I went there, I thought it was fucking disgusting, and I ended up getting a room somewhere else.
I
Oh,
don't know. He's in a
okay.
lot of those flight logs, though, isn't he? Like,
Uh,
I mean, this is Mr. Locker Room talk, right? I
yeah.
think these guys are all grabbing pussies all over the place. Like,
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. I've been a woman, and like, I've only been like in 20 years, and I've been in the building industry. I've not been trying to come up in entertainment or anything like that. But I mean, I've had my ass grabbed on a job site, like in front of people, not even in private,
Jesus.
like I'm not surprised when people act that way. Like I've had men stand right in front of me, like in a professional, like there are like 7 or 8 professionals and an entire job crew on an active construction site, and had men stand there and make sex jokes, like overt sexual remarks at me without
Jesus.
hesitation, intending to make me feel uncomfortable and throw me off my game, and knowing that there's slight social consequence to them, but not caring,
Oh,
and
it's
so I wouldn't hesitate to think that these elite dudes are totally like, enjoying the party favors, as it were.
yeah. Oh no, totally. All right, let's wrap it
Getting
up. Let's get the
late.
hell out of
Yeah,
here. Yeah.
it's
This
getting
was
late.
much later than I was expecting.
Well, you know how we do when
Yeah.
when we get going, us three here.
Yeah.
Always a party.
Oh, all right. Kim, kick this pig. Get us out of here.
Yeah, round us up.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Amy, for coming again. It was super fun. Um, yeah, you can check us out on YouTube, Rumble, everywhere you want to listen to us. This will be in the description box below. Don't forget to check us out on our socials, Facebook and Twitter for sure. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And hope everybody has a fantastic weekend and enjoy your casual Friday.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's always a real pleasure.
Yes,
Yes,
it is.
thank you.
All right.
Okay,
Good night, everybody.
Oh, Amy,
cheerio, goodbye.
well, we got to say our goodbyes, you weirdo.
Oh.